Welcome to 5-Minute Fridays. Today we're going to wrap up Black History Month. It's near the end of February, and we have with us our board chair, Bill Wilson from Lexington. Bill is retired from Kentucky Education Television. He's been with the Prichard Committee since the 1984 town halls, where KET was instrumental in bringing 20,000 people from across the state together to talk about issues regarding education and the desire to improve the quality of education. So with that in mind, Bill, our early experiences with education typically leave some type of indelible mark, particularly for those who choose to commit part of their life to the improvement of education. Can you share with us what inspired you in your early years? What was that formative experience of education like for you?
Well, my grandmother was a great inspiration for me. My mother worked, my father worked, and so my grandmother was my babysitter as such, but she was also my first teacher and trainer. So she used my little wooden blocks and my playtime to help me learn the alphabet, to learn how to spell. And so that was very helpful. And that reinforced now what we already know about the importance of preschool education. Mm-hmm. And that I got free of charge for the most part through my grandmother. So she was very, very helpful. Then my mother and father signed me up for the Reader's Digest Book of the Month Club. So every month I got a new book, and my job was to read the book, and when mom and dad got home, my job was to tell them what I had read. And of course I had my grandmother to help me.
It was also a time of desegregation, and so desegregation in our public schools impacted you personally.
It did.
How was that experience?
Ironically, my parents did not ask if I wanted to be a part of a social experiment. They just sent me to Lexington Junior High School. I showed up there, and the reason why I was so willing to go is because I had some good friends who were also going. But I didn't really know what I was getting myself in for. But luckily for me, I met some really good people there, and I had some really great teachers again at Lexington Junior High School. It was not easy, because being the only African American in class and being in a newly segregated society meant that I had to face a lot of name calling and some other kinds of activities that were racially insensitive. But I developed some really good friends while I was there, and like I said, I had some really wonderful teachers who counseled me and supported me through that. So for 3 years I attended Lexington Junior High School, and then after that I went to Dunbar High School.
How did you first hear about the Prichard Committee or connect maybe an interest on your part with the Prichard Committee?
Well, I have a friend of mine who was working with me at KET who became a member of the Pritchett Committee. Her name was Judy Tipton. And she had asked me some time ago if I had heard about the Pritchett Committee, and I said no. So she told me a little bit about it, but I never thought that at any time that I would ever be engaged in the Pritchett Committee. And then I happened to travel to Arkansas. I was in Conway, Arkansas, and I was on public television. I was on an educational panel, and the person who was there, who was a part of that panel, was Mrs. Clinton. And apparently she was also engaged in some educational activities there in Arkansas. So she asked me, she says, Bill, do you know anything about the Prichard Committee? I said, well, I know about it. She said, are you a member? I said, no, I'm not. And then she looked at me and just straightforward said, you ought to be.
So, Bill, if you were to say something to your younger you, or those parents kind of supporting their children in public education today, those emerging leaders, what would you tell them about the Prichard Committee and the importance of getting involved in an organization like this?
Well, I think that anyone that gets involved in anything, you can do it by yourself, or you can do it through an organization and have a greater impact. But the most important thing that most parents are concerned with are their children. They're concerned specifically. At the Prichard Committee, we're concerned with all children, and what we try to do is address our agendas to the policies that help impact the Commonwealth of Kentucky. So what they can do is to bring to us some of the issues and some of the concerns that they have, and then we'll look at them from a research perspective, determine the depth and the breadth of information, the concerns that are out there, and then we can just work with them. They can also help advocate in their local communities. They can do simple things. When we talk about parental involvement, people think, well, that means I got to go down to the school board. Well, first of all, it means getting up in the morning and making sure your child is well fed, that they get on the school bus or get to school on time, and that they're doing their homework assignments, that you go out and meet your teachers, either in a formal or informal fashion. Some very basic types of things. Then once you get into the system, you can start doing things like attending school board meetings, finding out about the policies that impact not only your child, but the children in that particular area. So I would suggest that the parents do the simple things first, and then eventually mature into the other types of things. And then you can truly become a great advocate for the system, in addition to being an advocate for your child.
Such an important point that Prichard Committee members and the committee as a whole is concerned about all children and ensuring that all children across our Commonwealth reach levels of excellence in their education and reach their potential. Recently, we've really doubled down on our messaging around equity in the state and ensuring that we close the gap between students in our state as they try to achieve proficiency. That's an important issue for us and continues to be an important issue as we move forward in analyzing the data that comes from our test scores, both here in the state and nationally. And you'll continue to hear that from us. We hope to get more people involved in the Prichard Committee as we move forward, and we'll see you next week on 5 Minute Friday.